Husband insists me to wear a tracker to monitor my every move and threatens divorce if I cheat on him, so I secretly pack up while he's away, file his own divorce papers, and ran before he returns. I, 29F, have been married to my husband 30M, who I'll call Alex. Alex and I met in college during our freshman year. We started off as just friends and got married 7 months ago. I've gotten along with his family, but we aren't super close, but we're friendly enough. The problem is that Alex has begun to make me incredibly uncomfortable. Firstly, he's begun to ask me who I'm meeting with, where, what we plan on doing, how long, every single time I leave the house without him. At first, I just thought he was being protective and a good partner, just in case something happened. But then he started checking my phone after the visits, vetting and researching each of my friends as well. He also has been pursuing me to link my bank account to his as he's in charge of the finances, when he was perfectly fine with keeping them separate before. We fight about it almost every day. Finally, yesterday, when he was preparing to go on a work trip for 2 weeks in California, he demanded I wear a tracker so he could keep an eye on me while he's gone. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm suffocating in his family, who have spoken to about his worrying behavior, just said he's being careful and protective, as a good husband should. I need to gather my things together and find a way to be gone before he gets home without tipping him off. He's always threatened that if he ever found me cheating on him, he'd turn in divorce papers the same day. He keeps a filled-out copy in his desk. I'm going to submit those the day I leave. But there's so much to do, Bergen, finding a new place to live, seeing if my job has any transfers available, packing and moving in 2 weeks. His return flight May 11th, so I need to move quickly. I'm posting here because I don't have any close family, and I can't risk dragging my friends into this, as we share the same friends. I just needed a place to vent and ask if anyone has any advice on the easiest and safest way to do this. Edit. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. I never even thought to not use his divorce papers. I'll check for cameras before I start any packing or prepping. I may also shred his divorce papers just in case, and look into getting a lawyer for myself. I'm in a no-fault divorce state that much. I so remember, which will help. I'll update again when I know more. The tracker he wants me to use is a small clip to put on the belt or waistband. I'll wear it unless I'm going or doing something related to me leaving no pets yet. Thankfully, update 1, so I've gotten a lot of support and helpful advice, along with questions I thought I should clarify before I proceed with the update. Some asked why I'd be hiding things from Alex regarding going out and who I'm meeting with. I don't, and I have nothing to hide. However, when he begins to then double-check everything I tell him with the other people, they're right down to each person I talked to and what I said. Did I send any text messages? Did I order food? How much did I eat? That's when it started to feel like I was slowly being pushed into a corner. It didn't start that bad, but gradually grew worse over time. All of the Reddit subs my in-laws' families are part of our related gardening and DIY, so I highly doubt they'll see this. If so, by the time they do, I'll hopefully be gone. I talked to my job and explained things to my manager, and they promised to look into openings in other states to see if they could get me into one. They'll have an update on that in 3 days. I trust that my bank account is secured, considering he's tried to get into it before and failed. I found one camera in the kitchen, another in the living room, and one in our bedroom. As such, I've left them in place for now and done all other planning, either in the bathroom pretending I'm taking a bath. I'm honestly staying away from the domestic violence services as my sister-in-law is unfortunately higher up in those, considering she volunteers there, and I have a feeling if I did show up there they would know in a heartbeat. I can't look for apartments until I get the update from my work, but either or, I'm still going to be leaving the state. The day before I do, I will be changing my number carrier and wiping my laptop and all of his electronics before I do. I've met with 2 lawyers so far and had them look over the paperwork my husband had prepared, and both said that it didn't have some clauses in it that could have caused me some trouble down the line. What alarmed all of us close the fact that several of those clauses dealt with future children, and not as a hypothetical like several here suggested. I have a feeling he fully intended on getting me pregnant to keep me trapped and tied to him. There are 3 other locations my job could send me to. What I have as a precaution begun looking into all 3 cities and housing in the areas just in case one of those this is the one they send me to. Even if they don't have an opening that they can push me into them, I will just have to quit, move, and figure things out on my own. I have enough money to live and survive for a few months until I can pick up another job. Unfortunately, all of our friends are mutuals and would likely be unaware of the consequences of saying or sharing anything I do or say with my husband. I don't have any surviving close family, and obviously my in-laws are not a good resource to rely on. I am on my own, unfortunately, other than the wonderful bonds I've begun to make here. I will update again if I get more information or something else happens. Otherwise, I'll update when my work gets back to me. I do plan on leaving before he returns, though, just to make sure that I'm not anywhere near here at that time. Update 2. Good news, my work has an opening I qualify for that will not only shift me across the country but also comes with a salary increase as well. I've started telling my in-laws and friends that I'm planning a surprise outing for when my husband gets back, for just the two of us. This way, people don't give me odd looks if they see me out and about. I've even gone as far as asking Mill to show me his favorite recipes. Meanwhile, well, I've found a moving company that, while small, is willing to work in a storm. The reason is in 5 days we're supposed to get hit with a large storm front. I plan to shut off the breaker and say we lost power. If he asks, just as several people here suggested, and even send him a short clip of the storm, I will have all of my stuff moved that afternoon, and I will be flying out once the weather has cleared enough to do so. I have a lawyer who will push my divorce through, and I've filled out the necessary paperwork so that I don't have to be here for it. I'm not suing for assets or alimony, and I've shredded his divorce papers as well. I've set up a cheap payphone plan through Cricket until this is all said and done, at which point I will find a new carrier number and phone. This one is being wiped and left behind. My laptop is provided by my work, and the IT department inspected it thoroughly, and it was cleaned. Thankfully, no other electronic aside from my laptop. A new phone will be coming with me. If Alex needs to talk to me, he can do it through my lawyer. Not sure if anything else will happen. My fingers are crossed that he doesn't think anything's amiss until after I leave, and I'm not turning the breaker back on when I do. He can when he gets home. My work is covering the place lane ticket, so that at least is one expense I don't have to finagle. In Update 3, it's been a busy week, but I've gotten so much done. Firstly, I am now out of the house and am currently in a hotel while I look for an apartment. It's a big city, bustling with people no matter where you look. We had a pretty bad storm system hit back home that actually lasted 2 days. High winds, thunder, lightning, and even hail everywhere. I didn't take much from the house: my documents, clothes, and important sentimental items. I left all of the furniture and electronics behind. I cleaned the house top to bottom and took pictures on my phone so he couldn't claim I damaged anything when I left. My lawyer has already started divorce proceedings, and my husband will be served on the 8th. His plane is due to land early morning, and the sheriff will be there at the house waiting for him. He is very much about public appearances and reputation. My lawyer will be calling him as well to inform him that I am more than willing to wear out everything to the public about his actions. If it means securing my freedom from him, I will go to court as long as I must get this pushed through. I haven't told our friends or his in-laws yet. I will do that while he is on the flight to prevent him from getting wind of it. Before he's handed the divorce papers, I will be calling around and explaining why we're getting divorced to try and prevent him from twisting this into somehow being my fault. I don't want him trying to claim I had an affair or something, so I want to get the truth out before he can twist this. I'm doing okay. I'm tired, but yet I feel almost jittery and off-kilter. I keep looking over my shoulder and monitoring what I say, even when I don't really need to anymore. Hopefully that will fade soon. My work is covering the cost of the hotel, and I'm working on getting my other things in order. I also need to find a new GP, as I want to get a full test just to make sure everything is okay. I don't know when my next update will be, probably when the divorce papers are filed or if we have to go to court to push them through. I will try to keep my head up, but it feels like I'm in a whirlwind or something, with so many things to do and think about. I kind of thought it would be easier once I got out of the house, but while the fear is smaller, somehow the number of tasks only seems to have grown. Update 4. Sorry I haven't updated for a while. Things got hectic and a bit chaotic. Honesty. Firstly, I'm working on getting an apartment still and have applications in 3 different places, and will hopefully hear back from them soon. I'm still going into work here at the new location, so I don't have to worry about burning through my emergency savings completely. I've gotten a lot of emails from Alex, his family, and our old friend group asking question after question. I have only sent one return email to Alex, explaining that I don't believe we are truly compatible and it is best we separate now that his treatment of me when I'd done nothing to deserve as such was just as much of a deal-breaker as cheating was for him. I ended the email with a statement that I would not be contacting him further, and anything else he needed to pass on to me, or vice versa, would be done through my lawyer. For his family and friends, I just typed up one email outlining everything that had happened and why I left. I told them I wished them no ill will, but that such treatment of his wife and partner was not acceptable. That should Alex get remarried in the future, I wish they would help support both partners and not just Alex. Alex, from what my lawyer told me, was livid when he was served. The sheriff actually ended up booking him for assault on an officer and menacing due to the threats he was shouting. His father bailed him out in a few hours, but with the testimony of the sheriff, my lawyer believes I have a very good chance of getting a restraining order. Alex, upon returning to the house, apparently lost his temper again, breaking the dining table into pieces as well as the TV and putting several holes in the walls. At least that's what one of the emails from one of our friends reported, as Alex called him to help him clean up the mess. My lawyer already has pictures of the house I took with timestamps as evidence nothing had been damaged by me. My friend reported that Alex tried to claim I'd been the one to trash the house, but the holes in the wall were at height. Alex is 6 feet 3 inches and I'm 5 feet 4 inches, so he knew that was false either way. Taking the pictures definitely will help me. So again, thank you everyone here for the advice, because I never would have thought of that on my own. My work won't share details of where I am, as I do work with some higher-end clientele who value security, and that information won't be gossiped about. And no, I'm not some stripper or escort. I deal with contracts, notary, and business management. As such, even if Alex tried to use my work to find me, he wouldn't succeed. Now on to the next story. Story 2: Caught wife cheating on a dating app while acting distant and always on her phone. So I tricked her BF into coming to Christmas dinner and exposed their affair to our whole family. My wife and I were married for 2 years before I discovered she had been fooling me. First, I'll admit that I loved my wife so much, and even when I noticed signs that she was acting edgy or dressing extra, I didn't consider most of it. My wife and I first met at a mutual friend's housewarming party and clicked instantly. We had a couple of conversations, talked about regular things, what she loved and what I loved, and she was very free-spirited. She laughed at almost every joke, which I found beautiful and attractive. I also loved that she was not acting like she was out of my league like the rest of her friends did. And after we had a great time together, we went our separate ways. But before we did, we exchanged contacts, and I called her as soon as I got home that evening. We didn't talk much that first night because she went to a different location to hang out with her friends, but the next day we talked and flowed like old-time friends. I won't lie. I wasn't single when I met my wife. My relationship was complicated, and I was going through so much with my then-girlfriend. I was tired of her lies, her deception, and always playing the victim in situations she made, which was exhausting for me. So when my then-girlfriend asked that we break up, I didn't argue with her. I did this because I was already close friends with my wife, and she looked like the kind of woman that would give me the long-lasting peace I wanted. And I was right. My wife gave me the kind of peace, love, and respect I wanted, but it was short-lived. After I officially broke up, my wife was there to comfort me and spend time with me whenever she wanted to. She was a freelance graphic designer, and this gave her the flexibility to work from anywhere. I'd even invite her for the weekends, and she would work from my place, and whenever she was taking a break, we'd go out and have fun. As of that time, she was single and was looking to have fun aside from her 2 friends I met at the housewarming party. She didn't have other friends and didn't have much of a social life, so we became best friends, and in no time we were madly in love with each other. Even without officially asking her out, we were almost inseparable and went everywhere together all the time. You all might call it obsession, but it wasn't. I had been yearning for a woman I could connect with and not feel insecure, and I found that in my wife. We introduced each other to our parents, and my parents loved her. She was my maternal grandmother's namesake, creating a beautiful bond between her and my mother. I had a great job and the pay was great, but as a freelancer, she earned more than me and I was cool with that. Despite her earning more than I did, I still took care of her. We dated for 2 years. Those were the most memorable moments we had together. We traveled to different countries mainly for sightseeing and took 2 proper vacations within those 2 years. While we dated, my love for her and my gifting increased. On our first anniversary, I felt we were ready to take things to the next level, so I asked her to move in with me, and she was glad to. Her parents even suggested that she move in with me at the early stage of our relationship so we could get to know each other, but she refused and said she didn't want to rush things. I literally did not hold back anything for my wife, nothing at all. I loved her wholeheartedly and did everything to make her happy. Her happiness was my priority, and I adored everything about her. I believed we were on our way to the happily ever after life, but I was very mistaken. After 2 years of dating and 1 year of living together, I popped the question and she said yes. We had a small wedding, invited our friends and family, and had a great time. We didn't need to move into a bigger apartment, so we stayed at my old house. We didn't do 50-50 responsibility, but she contributed to it. I took care of rent, gas, and utility bills, and she took care of groceries. Remember that I mentioned at the beginning of my story that there was a time I noticed some things were off with my wife, but I didn't pay much attention to it. Well, that started after a year in our marriage. She just changed, and I could not explain why. On some days she would be happy, and all nights the next day she would be so cold and ignore me, like we didn't live in the same house. Then she started going out more and more from being someone who didn't have friends in a solid social life. I would often return from work and she would leave a note that said she was out to see her friends or hang out with other freelancers that lived in our city. The truth is I was happy that she was even socializing more, and I didn't really ask detailed questions whenever she returned from her meetings. As time passed, I noticed she started caring more about her looks, applying makeup, and wearing skin-tight, skimpy clothes. I was a bit concerned about the skimpy clothes she wore, and each time I talked about it, she would say I was being insecure, and I didn't like that she was exploring different options. I didn't like it when she said that, so I stopped mentioning it and allowed her to do her thing. She even started staying late whenever she went out in the evenings, and I felt she needed to unwind after sitting in front of her laptop for hours. Our bond as husband and wife also became weaker as all of this continued, and most times she wouldn't let me touch her because she claimed she was always tired, and I tried to be an understanding husband, not knowing that my wife was cheating on me. It was until one day we were both sitting in the living room, and she mentioned something about having insufficient space on her phone, and I advised her to clear/clean her phone. As she was doing that, in a short glance at her screen, I noticed she recently deleted a dating app, and I was curious. I tried to hold myself together and pretended I did not see everything. Later that evening, after giving her a hot dose of my husband's duties, she slept off and I used her fingerprint to unlock her phone. As she slept, I re-downloaded the app, and because her details were registered with Google, I got signed, and immediately I didn't even dig deep when I found out that my wife had been dating one not-so-fine guy for almost a year, and he had seen me a couple of times. I read all of their romantic conversations, and I was heartbroken to see that they mocked me whenever they talked and said many nasty things about me. I was so enraged and even thought of giving my wife a peaceful sleep, but I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in jail. So I pretended to chat with him like it was my wife and invited her boyfriend to join us for Christmas dinner in a few days so he could meet my family, still pretending to be my wife. I told him I would travel, so we would have the whole evening to ourselves. After he agreed, I deleted the app, charged my wife's phone, and pretended all was well. In fact, I acted happier than I was the previous days, and she believed I was excited about Christmas. Long story short, on Christmas Eve, he arrived at my in-laws' home, and it was my turn to make a fool out of them. I knew the exact time he would come and open the door for him. The shock on his face was worth framing, and I pretended I didn't know him. When my wife saw him, she dropped the tray of food she was holding, and her parents suspected something was wrong. Her parents didn't know him either, but he was invited to the table to eat with us. As I ate, I began talking about a friend who recently found out his wife was cheating on him on a dating app, and he was mad and divorced her. I made the story so emotional her parents even said the lady did not deserve a second chance, and her husband did the right thing by divorcing her. While I told the story, it was evident that my wife was finding it difficult to chew and swallow the food in her mouth, and she was sweating profusely. Her boyfriend kept touching the collar of his shirt, and it was evident that he was uncomfortable too. After beating around the bush, I told her parents that their daughter was cheating on me with the man she invited for dinner, and her parents questioned her, and they were so furious when they confirmed it. They embarrassed her boyfriend without wasting time and kicked him out of their house. Then they rained abuse on my wife, and they expressed their disappointment. I'm glad she will have to live with her parents' disappointment for the rest of her life, and she has no place in my life anymore. She tried to defend herself and said she did it because I was getting boring and I did everything she wanted without complaints. Hearing this made her parents more furious, and they asked her to find somewhere else to sleep that day. I was so shattered that she could repay me that way, and I left their house. Later on, we divorced, and I have not seen her since. It's funny how you pour your heart out for a woman, care for her, and love her unconditionally. In the end, she takes advantage of that. Right now, I'm not ready for a relationship and it might take a while to heal.